interview on the 8th of June 2016 for Our Journey, Our City. So first of all, can you tell me your name?
My name's Syed Monir Ahmed.
Can you tell me when you were born?
28th of February 1992. It was a leap year that year as well, but I wasn't born on the 29th.
Right. And can you tell me whereabouts you were born?
I was Sunderland City Hospital.
Sunderland City Hospital. And can you describe your earliest memories of Sunderland?
Earliest memories... it's like there's so many to say, but then there's nothing that's coming in my head. But what I can remember is, I would say, it seemed as though there was a lot more people about back then, in a sense where, although we have more people now, you could see more people then. So if that one and I think now it's becoming more stressful than what it used to be. But that's probably because I'm older now and I'm not as young. But yeah, just the normal things like we used to live behind the fire brigade in Hilton Road, so I used to always see the fire engines coming in and out, and play with the kids in the streets. And Hilton Road, all the second-hand shops, and I used to jump in every single one of them to get games for the Mega Drive and everything we used to have. Just those little things, really. I haven't got any major memories. Just these little things that's built up over the years.
Can you? What's your earliest memory?
Earliest is, I'd say, my first day in school, which was Diamond Hall. I thought I was just going to play for 1 hour and come home. When I realised my dad's leaving me, I started crying and I started scratching and punching the teacher who was my teacher. And she put me on her lap and calmed me down and everything. I still remember that day. It was my first day in school.
What was school like?
It was good. It was... in fact, some of the guys who I was mates with school in reception, they're still one of my closest mates still to this day, and we're still going strong for the past almost 20 years now. We've still been mates.
Were the Bengali kids in the school you went to? Or?
Yes, there were. In fact, what I was referring to there, they were Bangladeshi as well. But actually, a lot of white children who were in Diamond Hall, although I lost contact with them over time. But then in secondary school, because I went to boarding school as well, and then when I came back and went to Thornhill, I met a lot of guys who I was in Diamond Hall with, because after that I went to Richard Avenue as well. So I've been to two primary schools, half of it in Diamond Hall, and then we moved houses. So then I went to Richard Avenue because it was closer. And when I came back and joined Thornhill, I found a few guys guys and girls who were with me in primary school in Diamond Hall. And it was just we just all united, because I found guys from Richard Avenue and from Diamond Hall. And again, I went to boarding school as well, so I'm in contact with a lot of guys. Even there were some from Sunderland, who then obviously I got to know better because I was in boarding school with them. When I came back and started Thornhill, I started becoming mates with more people who I didn't know of before that either. So I've got a lot of friends of different backgrounds and everything.
Where did you go to boarding school?
It was Bromley Cross in Bolton.
Okay, right. Yeah. And how old were you when you went to boarding school?
When I started, I was 12. 13. 12, sorry. Not 13, 12. Right. And just coming up 13 it was when I started off. And I left, or rather kicked out, when I was coming up kind of 15. And then I came and went to Thornhill.
Can you say why you got kicked out?
Actually, to be honest, it's an open story. I was young, I was dumb, and I got arrested for an arson. I'm not going to lie about it, it's taught me a lot of things. That's why it has, I think, my mistakes and everything has made me the person I am today, which isn't something very big, but it is who I am. And I don't do arsons anymore. It was a one-off. Never ever done it ever again.
Can you tell me about it?
There was a bit of it was a very hostile area where there's an Islamic boarding school there, but it was known as the most right-winged area in Bolton. So you can imagine the conflicts. And I went out with a few of my friends during the day, and we used to get, bother, when we go to shops and things, and used to get bother, and there was loads of conflicts between each other, and, we did daft things, and I'm sure these guys, I could probably go and get along with them now because I know how to talk to them better. But, like I said, we was young and we was dumb.
So, What happened during the arson?
Well, I broke a corn satellite, in simple words. So it was a terrible thing to do, but I've served me time for it. I got away with a final warning because it was my first offence. And after that, I have had a few minor things here and there, but I've had nothing major.
How did your parents react?
My mum didn't talk to me for about 2 days. Even when I came home, I could see a lot of disappointment more than anything. And I was just, I don't know, I suppose I was just a typical teenager where, although I could see that I've upset my parents, they had a lot of high expectations from me. And I think sometimes that kind of doesn't work in your favour. You know, when you're born and ever since you were small, you've just been expected to achieve some sort of greatness. And all you want to do is just not any of that. You just want to be a kid, or you just want... Not saying my parents actually pushed me or forced me into anything. They kind of did develop my mind in a sense where I thought that, yeah, I do want to go to boarding school, I want to do this. But then I realised, well, you know, there's a lot of kid things that I didn't do because my parents kept me they tried to shield me against a lot of bad things because they thought, no, we're going to send him to boarding school and it's going to be good and this, that. And I think because of the things that I was missing out on here, I went and started being a bit more wild when I was in boarding school. And just ever since I left boarding school, I've just been very, very wild. For a good few years, I was just probably the wildest child around. Everybody, even the elderly community people who are now, I'm part of the committee, like I said before, but these guys also remember me as being that kid who just aggressive and just overall, I was just like I said, I was just a very angry teenager, I suppose.
What was your relationship with your parents like growing up?
My relationship with my dad, I think when I was really small, what was saying that, you know, in primary school years, before I got to about, say, year 5, year 6 sort of thing, my relationship was closer to although I was very close to my mum since I was very small, I was very close to my mum, but there came a period where I thought my dad was safer than my mum because my mum would shout and I'd go and say something to my dad and kind of agree on it. But it was really because he was quite busy and say, yeah, go on, get it done, you know, you can go out and play, you know, things like that. Whereas my mum would like, no, where are you going? She'd ask more questions. So I thought I'd like my dad more than my mum, that's what I thought. But I'm mummy's boy till I always have been. Even till today, I get like spoon fed sometimes when I'm not eating. You know what I mean? I'm still the baby of the family, and I'm one of the oldest ones as well. And both my parents, to be honest, are great. Even in this election, they both have been so supportive. My dad, he's walked miles for me, and I couldn't thank him. No, I wouldn't have it any other way.
What about your brothers and sisters?
Well, again, like I said, my older sister lives in Northampton now. She was actually the first lady from Sunderland to do a full Islamic theology degree. She was the first lady to do it. And funny enough, a lot of my friends believe that I'm probably not very free with her because of the religious aspects. And my second sister, who's again older than me, she's 27, yeah. They think that, oh, well, she's been to school here in Thornhill School and everything, so he'll probably have more banter with her. Whereas really, although I'm very, very close to her in different ways, my older sister, for example, women problems and things, whenever I have things like that, I actually go to my older sister still, and she treats me like as if I'm her little kid. You know, she's not that much older than me. She's 5 years older than me, but from when I was little, I can remember she always looked after me, and she kind of, like, my mum would protect me against my sister if my sister's angry with me, but then my sister would protect me against my mum if my mum's angry with me. You know what I mean? And I just get defended from both sides, just depending on, you know, which side I'm on at the time. And even my younger brothers and sisters, even they kind of... My youngest sister comes and does my bed and everything because she goes, oh, he's just such a mess. And she's still in school. But whenever she's and I think I'm just one of those guys who's, although here I'm the most, I could say I'm the most independent guy in the centre who I can just put my foot down and do the way I want to do. But at home, I'm just the most dependent person. From ironing my clothes to making sure I've ate. It's just everyone from the young ones to the older ones. Even my niece from Northampton, when she comes down, she actually picked up, and she was only 3 or 4 years old, and she picked up that she goes, oh, well, she calls my mum Nanu, and she goes, oh, she always just talks about him like me. Because she doesn't care about anybody. We've just come from Northampton, and she's still always just shouting for him and this, that. And my mum goes, well, he's a bigger baby than you, believe me. So even my nieces and nephews are picking up on it now. that I am actually the biggest baby of the family.
And then in school, what were your relationships with your classmates like?
I want to move on to rather than primary school. I think secondary school is where it's is where you get more sick. Primary school, everyone just gets on anyway because you're just too small. Secondary school was tough. When I came, like I say, I joined from boarding school. I came and started Thornhill, so it was a completely different atmosphere to what I came from. And like I said previously, when where the boarding school was, it was in a very right-winged area. So, and when I came to Thornhill, and there was loads of riots and things going on at the time, and I saw a lot of hostility. But then at the same time, there were so many guys, and people said that, Thornhill's got this racism problem and this, that. But now that I'm older, I believe it was nothing to do with race. In fact, most of the guys, I was kicked out of Thornhill School as well. I'm not going to lie, I only did there for about 1.5, 2 years, and then in year 11, I was kicked out, but it was me who got jumped on my work experience by a group of lads whilst I was on my lunch. But because if they let me back in school, what they knew was there was going to be a huge conflict. Because I broke my arm, I got on 2 different places. I've got about 15 stitches. And my head was smashed to bits as well. So obviously they thought, I suppose it was for my safety and other safety as well, to avoid conflict. They had to kick me out, which, I'm not too fussed about now. But I don't think it had anything to do with racism to this date, no, because most of the lads who I had fights with, now, if I ring them up saying, mate, I've got a problem, they run to my help first. These are the same guys I had conflicts with. It was more about gang culture, but because, like, the Asian community, the lads are kind of growing up together, they had their gangs and the others had their gangs, you know what I mean? And that's what it was. And because it's like, I always give an example. We have a ginger friend. Right, someone with ginger hair. We have no problem with them whatsoever. But the moment we fall out with them, what's the first thing we call them? It'd be something relating to their hair, wouldn't it? I mean, I'm nothing against it, it's just an example that I gave. Similarly, these guys weren't actually racist in a sense where they believed they were somewhat superior, because that's what racism comes from, doesn't it? Where one sect believes they're superior to another race. It was nothing like that. They didn't believe they were superior, It was just a bit of a culture shock, really, sort of thing. And just, like I say, it was a bit of gang culture involved. And Asian lads are known to have kind of, act like a bit gangsters a bit more, which is true. And I'm going to put that because I used to think I was a thug as well. So, and it doesn't help either way, and I think it's getting a bit better now with I've got a little brother in school, and I've seen their crowd is pretty mixed. It's not just Bangladeshi lads together, and then you get the British white lads who are together. It's not like that anymore. You get mixed. I mean, now my friend circle is very mixed. Some of my best friends at the minute. Well, I say at the minute, I mean, like for the past 5-6 years, I mean, they've stuck by me, and they're my friends, and they're also, like, we've got a mixed group now. Like I said, there's a few Bangladeshi lads like who have been mates with since 20 years. Like I say, British white lads who've been mates with us since after school, which is still, again, about 8-9 years. And we all just get along. It's great.
Were gangs a big problem at school?
It depended on who you were. Like, for me it was, because I was always kind of in the limelight, because just like how in this community centre here, like I said, how I didn't care about what people thought of me and to support my mind, I was just exactly the same in school, and that got me into a lot of trouble. But I wasn't always the aggressive kid who would just go and fight. I'd kind of fight it politically as well, and I was kind of aware of that since I was in school. I mean, I was took to a council, the chamber meetings they have in the chambers. My head of house approached me and took me there whilst I was in school. I was 15 years old back then. And I think ever since then, I had that bit of interest in politics. And even my head of house and everyone, when my dad would come, they'd always just mention this one point. They'd say he comes late, he always fights, he always answers back when he doesn't agree with something. He's aggressive and everything, but he actually has the ability to become a very good politician if he gets the right guidance. And because it was just kind of, I was all over the place like a teenager, like politics and the teenager, it just doesn't go, does it? Especially when you're known as one of the baddest lads there. Even yesterday when I went to the petrol station, and the lady there, even she knows me very well, and she was like, you're into politics and that now, and you were like the guy. Cause another gentleman was there who's also part of the committee, said, his job is to get the gangs off the street. He goes, well, that won't be a problem. He's the leader of them. You know what I mean? There's just things like that where people still remember it, but they remember they look at me in a positive way now, and I think that's great.
What about outside of school? What was your life like growing up?
It was a lot to do with what was like inside the school, because you were seeing those same lads outside. There were certain areas where I couldn't step foot. Basically, there was there's the right side of Chester Road and the wrong side of Chester Road. That's what it was. When you come the Eden Vale area to the point of Chester Road was kind of like our not cut-off point. It was like that road that was separating us from a lot of lads that we were having conflict with, because they were from like Millfield area, but then we were having conflict with lads from Barnes and then from Hendon as well. So we were like surrounding Eden Vale, and we'd know from what direction they're coming from. We know which lads it is, if you know what I mean. And every single week almost there was a period of about 4 months, and this is where kind of when I came, I saw a lot of guys were a lot frightened to stand up. Although I don't condone violence, but just if I go back to when I was 15, I was just looking around saying, these guys are scared. Why are they running away? No, you should stand your ground, and things like made them watch Green Street a few times. And yeah, slowly it started happening where fights started happening every single week, but we never actually used to go and look for fights. What used to happen, we'd be in Eden Vale, hanging about in street corners, like average teenagers do, and we'd just get like low, because it was just a place where I think at the time, a friend of mine actually told me, he's a friend now, I had a lot of problem with him, and he said, and excuse my language, he just said it in those, the P word, he said, which word that is, and he said it was just like, I would say it was like you'd have a reputation for being the top, P basher. So you'd go and, look for them, and the best place to find them was in Vale at the time. And so, and when the us lads started like fighting back as well, it just started becoming really, where everyone's just chasing each other. It was actually, at the time it was fun, but now it was very dangerous as well. Came across a lot of knives, a lot of things, bottles, in fact, I got stabbed here once as well. It wasn't nothing too serious, but slashed. So it was quite but after a while, we started being the aggressors, because we thought, right, listen, lads, because when we realised, well, hold on, we're not made out of glass either, and we're teenagers bearing in mind, so we thought, let's go inside Barnes Park, lads. A few of us, let's go Barnes Park and let's just have a fight, and we would just go to any area, have fight for fun. Then when we realised people started knowing us in Sunderland, and no one's confident with us, would jump on the metros and bump the metro, not pay any ticket fare or anything, and we'll look at the stops. We've never been there, Felling, Felgate, wherever, you name it. There's probably every single area we went and had a scrap. That's what we'd do, and it was fun for us. It's very dangerous now that I look back. I would never tell anyone to do anything like that now. But this was our life growing up, because we didn't have any facilities to take us off the streets, so this is what we were doing.
Can you tell me about the assault that got you kicked out of Thornhill?
Yeah, well, we were on our work experiences, and it was a Tuesday, I clearly remember. So on Monday night, few lads, again, I'm very close mates with them now, so I don't even like, not that I don't like talking about, we do talk about it, but what they did was they were going past on bikes, and they started screaming some racial abuse. Not because they were racist, but because it was fun. Do you know what I mean? You get a bit of a chissy. Like, we weren't racist because we were going into Barnes Park and fighting people who were white. It wasn't because they were white, not because of their colour. It was because of which area they were, not even which area, where they were hanged about, you know what I mean? Which gang they were from. It was really that. Nothing to do with, because those lads who were being racist towards us, also racial remarks, if they just saw a normal person who didn't know Wharton Path, they wouldn't say anything to them. So that proves that they weren't racist. It was just against us. You know what I mean? And like I say, it was just gang culture. And they were going back on bikes, and they started hurling some abuse. We started chasing them. And one of them, I think, one of my mates punched one of them. So nothing serious happened, but we were chasing them for about half an hour. And I think they just used to come for the chase as well. And after that, the next day, I was in King's in Park Lane, the fried chicken shop, and me and two of my friends were there. And about 20 to 30 lads came in, some of them armed with chains, baseball bat and whatnot. They were in school uniform, and some older lads, I think, as well. And they all just surrounded us inside the shop, and we were just like cornered off. And me, mate, God, what should we do? I said, well, we're not backing off. And they just pushed it, and one of my mates just threw a first punch, and everyone was just scrapping, and it was just everyone trying to jump on us, and we took it outside. And then whilst I can remember like just grappling with a few of them, one of them hit me with the baseball bat really hard twice in the head, and I just felt dizzy and fell on the floor, and they just dumped all over my arm. And this arm was just, you know how this goes back, you know, your wrist goes back, my forearm was basically back like that. And I got up and I just realised I was just all broken, like places, my shirt was full of blood. And yeah, that's what happened. But these guys, like I say, who did that to me, you know, I share this, I drink from the same cup, eat from the same plate now. So we have kind of put it past us, and we tell everyone now, they do and we do, there's no point fighting like that. Yeah. And the only thing we say we regret is we wish we got along in school rather than fighting, because it would have been so much better. But I suppose we wouldn't have learned as much and now we can teach the young ones to grow up like this, how we wished we grew up. And that's what I want to do for the young ones as well, actually.
So, going back to your parents, did your parents talk a lot about Bangladesh when you were growing up?
Not particularly, no, not really. I think my mum and dad from an early age realised that we're never going to go to Bangladesh to settle down anymore. Because originally when Bangladeshi people, I don't know, I couldn't speak for everybody, but the vast majority, the idea was we're going to go, it was just another place to go and work. Because, you know, there was a lot of job, there wasn't very many opportunities in places like Bangladesh. You know, it was quite war-torn places as well. And they came, you know, people used to go to things like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Germany, loads of places to work. And they'd come back to Bangladesh, and Britain was just another one of them places. But we got accepted in Britain, like we got in no other place, and I'm really thankful for that. Like I always say, Britain isn't great because of its colonial activities or its occupations or history or bloody history. It's great because of its multiculturalism and how its tolerance. That's what makes Britain great right now. Do you know what I mean? And not why I'd call them the bigots. The reason why they say once great country, the time they remember for it's great. For me, that time wasn't great for Britain. The colonial rules, all these things, that wasn't the great part of Britain. The great part of Britain is the acceptance, the tolerance. And I think my parents knew from the start that, you know, this is the future for the children. They're not going to go and settle in Bangladesh. This is their home. They've accepted it as their home. They're going to school there. They've got mixed friends. For him, his brown friend is just as important as his white friend, vice versa. Do you know what I mean? I don't differentiate between friends. And so they never really... I've been to Bangladesh twice, you know, and I've seen it and how it is, and I do like it, but I don't think I'd ever be able to live there. It doesn't feel homely as it does here. You just get treated like royalty over there, and it is nice for a few days, but I'd rather be a normal person, if that makes sense.
So, did your parents not keep Bangladeshi traditions alive in the household, things like that?
A lot of people say Bangladeshi traditions, but my parents give more importance to more like the Muslim traditions, as you say, because like Bangladeshi culture, certain things, for example, like Mrs. Leslie Etherington we have here, she told me the other day as well, can you not call me Miss? Because she was at school, she was my teacher, so I call her Miss. Well, I haven't told her yet why I can't call her anything else. It's because in Bangladeshi and in Muslim culture, both, you don't call your teachers by their name. It's a sign of disrespect. So it doesn't matter if she's not Muslim or Bangladeshi, she was still my teacher. And I still show them the same respect. Even if I'm talking to her officially, I still just call her Miss. And any of my teachers who I see them till now, when my sister, I go to the parents' evenings and things, sometimes I represent, if my dad can't go, my mum, I go. And all the teachers are like, all the other guys who come in now, they call us by our names. But you're the only one who comes in and you just still call us Miss, and it's like you're still our student. I said, well, that's just the way I want to be. Like, I prefer to be that like younger baby kind of person than trying to be old and trying to show dominance. Do you know what I mean? And I think those kind of things that are important. It's not important for us to know every single detailed history of Bangladesh and the conflicts and whatnot. I think what's important for us is to kind of show this culture in a positive way, like, these small things. Do you know what I mean? Like like the hospitality. Bangladeshi people are very well known throughout the world for their hospitality by other cultures around surrounding areas. Even in India, when I've come across a few Gujarati people and Pakistani people, and if they see a Bangladeshi who his hospitality isn't very good, they'd say, "Oh, you sure you're a Bengali?" And I think those are the things that we need to put forward. These are the kind of values we need to, some of the backward thinking we need to leave behind, the positive things that we can pick up from Bangladesh, like the hospitality, the respect and whatnot, and we should put that forward into British society. And this is where you could bring a positive, solid, multicultural society where everyone will accept each other, is when you take the positives out of each culture and kind of advertise on that.
You said you thought there were some backward elements in Bangladeshi culture. Could you say what you think?
I think that's also to do with, not just to do with Bangladesh, but the development of Britain as well. For example, Sunderland isn't as developed as, you'd say, Birmingham or London. So even the Bangladeshi politics that's here is still very tribal. But that isn't just because the Bangladeshi people here aren't as forward. It's because Sunderland itself isn't as developed. I think that plays a key part as well. Like Newcastle, right? Again, Newcastle's not as tribal as Sunderland. In fact, it's a lot more, I don't know the word, I can't think of the proper word for it, but you can just imagine what I mean. It's not as tribal as Sunderland, although we're just, about 20 minutes drive, and it's a lot different. But I think it's because the city's more developed than Sunderland, and that, you can't clap with one hand. We need to work together, the council, the government and everything, we need to work together. I think Sunderland is one place where it just doesn't get looked at as well. We're not being given importance, not just Bangladeshis, but Sunderland as a whole. I believe that we should be given more importance. We're still part of this country. You know what I mean? And a lot of people say Sunderland and they say, "Oh no, why we're not going to go there?" But it has so much potential. That's what kills me, because Sunderland has so much potential. And we're not working up to this potential. Even the Bangladeshi community, I think we haven't contributed enough yet. We have done some contribution, and it is great what they've done. And in fact, I don't blame the elderly people, because they weren't brought up here. They're not that much aware of British culture. It's just what they've seen. And so what they've done, I think that's brilliant. But I think the younger guys, the guys who have been brought up here, not just me. I mean, I came very later on, and there were guys who were in their 40s who were brought up here. And I think that's where they lacked. They didn't produce as much. And I don't know why that reason is. I wouldn't just blame it on the Bangladesh. I suppose the whole environment itself matters. And once we can crack that, I think we can have a mass production, and Sunderland we will put Sunderland on the map. And that's why actually I've come to the centre.
So going back to your life, what did you do once you left school?
After I left school, I went to college for 1 year, but I think because I was actually quite clever in school, but because I had that much missed out, like getting kicked out of boarding school, so many, my education was affected a lot. And that's no one else but myself to blame. And when I went to college and I was doing level 1 BTEC, it was just work that was so easy that I would get it done in half an hour, which was a 2-hour session. And I'd say, what should I do? And then a lot of time the lecturer would say, well, just go. Don't go home or anything, but just stay in the building, but do what you want, sort of thing, because there's nothing for me to do. And so I'd go to the library, I'd open up thick books of law, or I've probably, one of my friends says, I've probably got the most useless facts in my head than anybody else. I'll give you one right now. Did you know that if you push hard enough against a wall, you could go through it? Because it's made out of particles, but you'd probably get crushed to bits before you could go through, but it's fact that particles you could go through. I mean, it's a useless fact. You're never going to do it, but it's just stuck in my head. So many things like that, do you know what I mean? Like certain things in psychology, certain things about sociology, certain things about law, just bits and bobs from everywhere. But when I quoted, people think I've studied law, but then when I quote something else, they think I've studied. So people are really confused on what I've studied. And then the other day in the election, when I said I've actually just got an F and a D in school because I couldn't do my GCSEs, and I've just about got level 2 maths and English afterwards that I went and done, and that's it. I haven't got any other education. And people are like, what? They're quite shocked. And I suppose because the stereotypical way of thinking is that someone with low grades his vocabulary in English isn't going to be top notch. It's not going to be as fluent, and I think that's stereotyping, because there's a lot of smart kids who just because they were wild, they couldn't just achieve what they could.
So what did you study in college?
In college, I studied BTEC level 1. But to be honest, I hardly even. I do mention that for the sake of it in the CV. My 1 year in college, after that, I thought, I want to do an apprenticeship. I did business admin for about 6 months, but at the time, I was just doing it for the sake of it. Really, I was just going out on a night. You know what I mean? I was just partying. Then I'm going to be totally honest here. You know what I mean? My life's an open book anyway. I got into a lot of wrong things, making money the wrong way, and obviously my parents didn't know about it. And they'd be hell on if they knew. And I was kind of like leading a double life. But then my mum got the hint that okay, he's taking stuff, and he's definitely, because where's he getting new clothes from? And she'd approach me, but the thing is, my mum's really clever in that way. A lot of parents would actually kick off, and they'd say a lot of things, but my mum was just always nice about it, because she knew, she was thinking, well, he's buying a lot of expensive clothes, so obviously he's financially sorted, and he's not in his right state of mind, so if I shout at him, scream at him, and he's only 18 and 19, he's going to leave the house, and it's just going to get worse. Do you know what I mean? And just by her nurturing me in a way, one Ramadan came, I was about 21, and I approached my mum and I just cried, and I said, you know what, I did all that, and I did this, and so many things. It's going to be too long even if I named them on here, but we had a good circle. I'm still mates with them. 2 of us took the straight path afterwards. One of my mates is in prison now, going to come out in December. Another one got out just earlier last year. Do you know what I mean? So there has been consequences about it as well, and we have seen it. And and my mate says as well, he goes, I was only in for 9 months, but I felt so much behind when I came out. And I think it's very important that we show the younger guys as well that it's not the right path, because it doesn't lead anywhere good. It doesn't have any future in it, and I've learned that as well. And luckily that I didn't get into any major. I did get into some bother with some nasty people. I got that out the way sorted, but with the law, I didn't really. I say it openly. Actually, I was too smart. You know what I mean? I was very clever and I think a gentleman, I see him as a mentor, approached me because he knew what I was getting up to, and he said, "You know what? The brain you're using in doing all this, if you used it in the right path, do you know how far you could go?" Because even when I was in the wrong path, some of the ideas that I'd always get out that always look like. One incident was when we were getting arrested. This was when we were 17, and whilst we were sitting in the car and the van's coming to take us away, right, I got this story out in my head, told 3 of my mates, and we got away with a referral order. And that should have been harsh, not sentenced, but we should have been convicted of community service, and at least not prison or anything, but at least it should have been a conviction, but it was just a referral order because of this 2-minute the story that came up in my head. And my mates always say, where do you get these ideas? Where do you get this thing from? You just make up an idea in about 2 minutes and it just works. I said, I don't know, it just does. And that's where people used to say to me all the time that I'm in the wrong field. All the time, everywhere where I've worked, people said I'm in the wrong field, and I don't know what my right field is yet.
So what have you done since?
And
then?
After that, I went and joined the call centre, just working. It wasn't for me really, and I just didn't know what was for me. And then after leaving the call centre, I was selected as one of the 7 fighters to go and fight in Super Fight League, which is a big show in India, MMA. And I managed to go through the trial period. It was great, and I was training really hard. And that time, I was just working part time in a takeaway. I've also done door-to-door sales in between that as well, and that fighting didn't work out. Ramadan came, and after Ramadan there was some problems with the show, and it was getting held back too much, and I think I kind of lost track again. And because I was getting really broken, I needed a job as well. Then I was working for an interpreting firm, and I think this is where I realised that social work is what I want to do. Really, I was working for the interpreting firm, and a lot of time I'd go out and interpret for social service and whatnot. I was seeing the Bangladeshi community, a lot of guys. In fact, a certain case I remember was a guy who was 14 years old, and he was a drug addict. And the drug, he was not addicted. I don't know if he was addicted or whatnot, but he was taking it a lot. You know what I mean? And I would say it was like an addiction, but I would say it was methadone as well. And it's quite a strong drug. And I knew in fact, I probably knew more about that drug than the police officer who was sitting with me. And I won't get into the detail of how. But, and I realised the kid didn't want to speak to anyone, and his dad didn't have fair, it was very unfair on him, because when I asked and I was only an interpreter, but when I went and sat there, I just got out and said, social worker, you're not doing your job properly because you didn't do this. The head teacher was saying, no, the other two children are fine. They're just doing all the work in school. They don't really talk about their brother. I said, well, that's a concern, because they think their brother's sleeping at home and having these arguments with their dad is completely normal. If they're normal, that's not, how can you as a teacher not understand this? If they're completely normal, that's not, it's not right, because that isn't normal. What their brother is doing isn't normal, and if they class that as normal, that's not right. And how can you not, point out on that? You're a teacher. And the youth workers were sitting there, and the social worker was just getting red, because she didn't know what to do. I'm just an interpreter. I'm not supposed, this isn't my role. And the father was really happy, because he said, finally someone came who's not just telling me what they're saying, he's actually standing up for me. You know what I mean? Because the police, even he said it as well, because I was there, he had that confidence to say the straw which had the powder in it, I gave it to the police to go and test it, and they didn't even touch it, they didn't even take it. So it was very unfair on him. And now his son's actually on the mend, and I think that's great. And this is, doing interpreting is where I realised there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this community. And these were issues in South Shields, and I knew there's same issues going on in Sunderland, in some houses, and it needs to be addressed. And after that, I started my own business. Well, it was originally my dad's and my uncle's, and I kind of took it over for 2 years. And just recently, I've closed it. I've sold it. I'm selling it off, because I've just thought, enough is enough. This isn't for me, and I'm just getting depressed. It's just not my thing. Money just doesn't motivate us. I don't know what, a lot of people come up with me with different schemes every single day of making money. A lot of times I've put some money in as well, but it's just, if someone comes and says to me, if you do this much hard work, you'll make this much money, it just puts me off. But if you say, if you do this, we could progress and we'll have this kind of environment, I'd be there day and night trying to work it. You know what I mean? Even if it's a low paid job, I still do it, is because it's something to do with satisfaction. I suppose I'm trying to give back to the community, because I know how many bad things I've done, and a lot of things that's happening today. I know that somewhat, I wouldn't say I'm responsible, but I have played a part in it. If there are kids in the streets still now, it's because they thought we were cool, and that's why they're following our footsteps. So I am responsible. So I think I should take some sort of responsibility to get them off the street, because I know where it leads.
So you've joined the Labour Party, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What made you join the Labour Party?
I've got I have lots of mentors. Like I said, because I couldn't do education, although I'm planning to go in September. I did actually do the access course I was halfway through an access course, but my grandmother passed away in that period. So it was because she had cancer and she was in hospital, and I was like spending a lot of time with her. I had to leave it. But I'm planning to go in September, and like I say, I've been confused all this time. Do I want to study? Do I want to do that? But I've noticed throughout, if I can look back now, ever since school, if the teachers had said, if you put your mind to a certain thing, you could be a good politician, or you could be a good this, good that. And I think politics is one field that it's always looked down on. People say it's dirty, but I say politics isn't dirty. It's the people who make it dirty. And if it is that, everyone says it's dirty, but no one's willing to clean it. And it is going to get that in, but it's running, it's governing, a set of people, or state, or what, depending on what level of politics you're in. I mean, community centre politics to local council politics to, there's so many things. There's international politics, you know what I mean? And I think it's very important, and it's very sad that a lot of people don't take interest in it, because it's kind of what your future is based on. If you don't select the right people, if you don't do the right work, then there's no point in complaining and saying nothing ever happens. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I've joined the Labour Party because Dippo, I had a councillor from Newcastle who I do look up to a lot. He's a Bengali councillor of Elswick. He's a very respected man around there. He's known as one of the most favoured councillors in Newcastle. And he's a Bangladeshi. He's been accepted. Do you know what I mean? And if that can happen in Newcastle, I don't see why we can't have that in Sunderland. And he told me, look, join the Labour Party. It was either that or the Tories, do you know what I mean? And I believe if I join the Green Party, if I join the Tusk Party, they're very, very small fishes. You go in there, you're just going to be in that circle. But if you join a bigger movement, do you know what I mean? You have a lot more supporters. And I think all the left kind of should unite with Labour, Do you know what I mean? Rather than having their own little conflict. Because I always talk and I always tell everyone, every single committee member here, even, the chairman, I've had conflict with them before in different, not conflicts, like disagreements, right? In different subjects. But we do have a lot of common grounds. And that's what I tell every single person. Forget the differences. Look at the common grounds. Do you know what I mean? Because we can look at differences every single day. Me and you will have a lot of differences. We'll not agree on a lot of things. But I can guarantee if we sit down and talk, there'll be a lot of things that we can agree on. So why not just work on that? And why not team up based on that? Why do we always look at what we don't agree on?
And can you tell me about your getting elected here on the committee?
Oh, this one. Well, I've kind of become the hot topic around here because of that one, because nobody's ever done that before, like especially at the age of 24. And I actually told the chairman that yesterday as well. I said, why is it that in our community, for instance, the chair post, the secretary, the treasurer, why is it that you have to have like at least 4 kids and 2 grandchildren before you could stand for that position? I said, I've got friends who have done accountancy and things. Say, for instance, none of them are going to come in the centre because they're put off by it. Right, but because of the politics, they put off by the local politics. But I said, but I know one guy. No disrespect to any treasurers who have been there in the past. But as we can see, the centre hasn't really improved. But I can guarantee you, if my mates who's done accountancy and things, you put them as a treasurer, and they'll definitely know what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? But why don't we look at capability? I think we look at who's got the bigger family. The bigger family just vote for their family, and their family member a lot of times doesn't even attend any meetings. It was just for the fact of going, because Bangladeshi and India and Pakistan and whatnot, elections are a really big thing. Do you know what I mean? They love it. And they love the atmosphere. And this Sunday, the elections, the voting that happened, every single person who I've talked to said they have never ever seen this kind of atmosphere in the Bangladeshi Centre ever. And that was all due to all the youngsters getting involved. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously, when I first, my idea was, because both panels were set, and I approached both panels. One didn't agree with me, another one, like the current chairman, he did. I proposed a new position called community coordinator, and I said this person wouldn't just look after, because they wanted to make me kind of like the youth, just work for the youth, and I said no, because then you'll just leave me with the youth and you do what you want, and we're not going to be able to progress. That's why I said community coordinator, not youth coordinator, and I've made it clear that I'm going to try and work and try and get different projects for different people, different age groups, and work with everyone. And I said, this will be a selected post. I said, you guys do your elections, carry on with your fun, and just give us one selected position for a youngster. And I was planning to get somebody else to fulfill, not me, myself, being in the position in the forefront. I thought I'll back them. But at the end, because then when I put it through in the AGM, everyone agreed, but there was disagreement with a lot of other things, and people start screaming and shouting and nobody would listen to each other. And I thought, how are we going to progress if we can't even sit and have a decent conversation? And I just got up there and told everyone to calm down, and I got kicked out. The police had to escort me out. I was telling everyone to calm down. People were coming over to me, some of them getting very aggressive. I stood my ground. I wasn't going to back off. When I grew up fighting, it doesn't scare me. But I wasn't going to obviously fight here. But if anybody thought that they could intimidate me, I always say I respect every single person. But the moment someone tries to intimidate me, I think I just go back to that 15, 16-year-old, if you know what I mean. And I rang my friends up, and I purposely didn't bring all my mates along to the meeting, is because I knew if there's any problem, they'll all kick off. So I thought, no, I'm going to keep them out, because they're very hot-headed, some of them. But I called them saying, listen, lads, I've been kicked out of 80s, mind coming down, just so they know that I've got support. I'm not just one crazy kid. And when they came and we came back in, the police even admitted that, no, you aren't bad lads, I can tell. And after that, there was a re-election that was happening, and the chairman approached me and said, would you like to be one of the directors? And I didn't want to be directly opposing anybody by being a sports secretary or something. I said, I'll be a director, but if I pass as a director, I automatically get given the position of community coordinator. And my mates at the point said, listen, you have to be the one to get elected, not anybody else, because no one can talk and stand up the way you will. And you're more clued up. So I said, yeah, fair enough, I will. And during the election period, there was a lot of scandals and things. There was a lot of scandal, like a lot of lies, a lot of, I don't know why, certain people tried to manipulate a lot of things that I had said, although they knew fine well what I meant. Do you know what I mean? When you can take certain words and you can manipulate them. That's what was happening throughout the whole of election. And I just stayed quiet. I said, I'm not going to respond to anybody. I will respond in my own time. Then we decided to do a live show. I said, well, all these people saying a lot of things about me. Well, fair enough. I said, because I'm one of those guys, I love a challenge. And I was challenged by a person who I get along with him now after the elections. I'm fine with him, but it was a bit of a challenge because certain people at the age of 40, the 40 mark, who also grew up in this country, kind of said, these young'uns, and if you guys think you guys are the whole of Sunderland, you're wrong, And I took that as a challenge. I said, well, okay, we'll see. And, in that same playground in a school where the challenge happened, a few weeks later, I went and shook the guy's hand and I said, I won the election, thank you, and everything. And, I don't want to keep any more conflicts, but I did a live show where it's Facebook Live. So I said, it's live and I'm going to stand this. I'm going to sit there. Does anybody have any questions? And whatever question came at me, I answered them swiftly and I didn't get stuck anywhere. And I was expecting those people who are manipulating my words to actually come now and ask me questions, but no one did. And I think that gave me a lot of popularity because over 2,700 people watched it. And I got a lot of praises for it. They said, you didn't panic at all. And it was as if, although there was no papers in front of you, you didn't know what question you're going to get asked. And it was live. Whatever question you were asked, you just answered it. And it was, again, these long answers. And that got me a lot of popularity. Then on the voting day, again, one of my mates picked me up for the area and everyone was just watching. And it was a great atmosphere because this is where we realised the elderly people have completely, they've never not accepted us. It's just that they tried to do it their way. And now they've accepted that, no, we need to listen to them as well. It's their community just as much as ours. And before it was just what the elders say, we all listen, which is our culture. But our culture is we respect the elders, but our culture also is the elders show respect and give importance to youngsters. It works both ways, and I think we forgot that in the past few years. And luckily, through myself and some elderly people who have supported me, we've reminded everybody. And I spoke to all the youngsters as well. I said, you guys criticise the people who can't speak English properly and they're in the centre. They say there's a term that they use, freshie. I'm sure you've heard it before. And I said, well, like our secretary, you call him a freshie. Yet he's one of the most top interpreters in Sunderland for Bangladeshi people. So me and you, growing up in this country and knowing fluent English, what have we done? What have we done to say that, well, we're better? You haven't come and approached them. And if you do, your elders don't want anything bad for you. They want good for you. They want progress as well. And I think the conflict between me and some middle-aged people was maybe because they possibly thought that, oh, he's a lot younger than me. I couldn't do it. Why should he be able to do it at 24? But obviously everyone has to understand times have changed. And if you guys weren't able to do something, it doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. And that's just what I went by. And I try not to disrespect anybody, but at the same time, I wouldn't, like when I said, when I'm here and I specifically said, I'm not standing elections for any for these 18 plus and 20 plus people. I'm standing for the people who no one ever approaches. For example, when the elections start, everyone comes to Eden Vale and they say, oh, we want to do something for the young and whatnot. After the election, no one used to ever look back at Eden Vale. And we grew up watching that. And I say, well, these young kids who are under 18, they're part of our community. Why don't you guys ever approach them? Do you know what I mean? You only approach people who are 18 plus who can vote. And I said, I'm standing for the people who can't vote. And I think that's what got me a lot of votes. And that's what I want to work with. I want to work with the young. Because I know when they're 19 and 20, you're not going to be able to get them here and do activities. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be the young ones that you need to guide from a young age. So then they can grow up and be what they want to be. And certain things, if you keep them in a good environment, you can mentor them well and you can see who's good at what. Because I think now everyone says that I'm very good at politics. Now I think, why wasn't I pushed towards this from when I was 16? So now I want to see who there must be a lot more 16, 15-year-olds who are a lot more capable than me. And I'm going to push them. The push that I didn't get till 24 by Terman saying he's given me that push. Do you know what I mean? And at the age of 24, I should have got that push at the age of 16. Do you know what I mean? And I'm going to give that push to the younger ones, the push that I didn't get.
Could you tell me about going back to Bangladesh? How many? You say you've been twice? I've been
3 times.
Right.
I went in 1996, I went in 1998 and 2004, where the big flood happened. Right. And I think every time my experience was a little different. Well, 1998 I did have a little experience as well. Like 1996 when we went, I can still remember our first day there. My dad was already there. He went about 2 months earlier. My uncle was getting married. You know what I mean? So we went with my uncle, my mum, our whole family went, and my dad kind of went earlier on. And my granddad was there as well, and my grandmother. They're both not in as well anymore. And I can just remember getting off the plane, and me and my sister said, I'm going to go to run to dad first, and she said she is. And I got lost between some people, and she ran and whatever. And we went to the village where obviously my dad and everyone got brought up and whatnot. Everybody was surrounding, and I got a bit like, why is everyone looking at me like that and whatnot? And I used to always just hang around my dad when I went. I used to love the animals. My granddad, from my maternal granddad, my mum's dad, my dad's dad was a very calm person. He was a leader, but he was a very, very calm person. And my mum's dad was, take it this way, he was pretty tall, very tall, big man. He loved his horses and he loved his guns. So you can imagine what kind of person he was. And when you heard him shout, you could hear him from one end to another. And people, I've seen big officers. This is something that I've seen. Some guys who, and especially in places like third world countries like Bangladesh, these kind of people are given a lot of importance because they have a lot of power. Politicians. One guy was rocking on his chair, and my grandma said, "Have you never sat on a chair before?" And this is to a very, very high-ranked officer. He just didn't give a crap. He just didn't like this kind of, rocking on chairs and things whilst you're talking, and really didn't like that. And I picked up things from, I suppose, from early. I didn't pick it up then, but now that I look back, now I'm picking things up, because I think there's a lot of things you can pick up from these guys. They've got a lot of experience. And I was always fascinated about the fact that whoever came up to me, whoever talks to me, even now, the other day when we were sitting in the meeting and the chairman said, why is everybody shocked that this kid is acting the way he is? And he's shown I wouldn't class myself as a leader, do you know what I mean? But they say that I've got some qualities of leadership. And they say, why are you guys so shocked? We do nurture a lot of things. And although his dad has never been in the forefront of politics, because my dad's not that, he's not really much of a public speaker, but he's a very smart man. He just didn't get involved in the politics. But he said, but his granddad was a very good leader of his time, both from his mum and his dad's side, so we shouldn't be shocked. All his maternal uncles were into politics as well. In fact, one of my oldest uncles is actually paralysed now. Well, he can walk with a walking stick. He got beaten up really bad because it does get very, very violent over there. He was a very, very big politician. In 1998, when we went, it was when my granddad had a stroke, and we were just mainly in the city that time in Sylhet. We weren't really in the village. I just went for a few days, and I didn't really like it in the city. Even when I went in 2004, where I was about 12, even at that time, we went for about 3 months or something, and we lived about 1.5 months in the village, 1.5 months in the city, and I preferred the village. Do you know what I mean? Because I think it's really nice, and it's a lot different, and I want to see that different. They say, oh, come to Sylhet, it's just like England, you know what I mean? There's so many shops, so many this other, but I don't want that. I don't want just like England. Do you know what I mean? I want to see these fields and these farms and these nice houses in the villages. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to see the city and all the pollution and that's what I'm coming away from. Do you know what I mean? All the pollution, the cars, the thing, and all that. I've come away from that. Traveled from all the way to England not to see more cars. And I've made an intention, if I go to, I don't want to go to Bangladesh at the minute. The reason being is I'm 24 years old and I'm single. And the thing is, when you go at that time, every single guy just wants you. If you're a girl, every guy wants you to marry his son. And if you're a boy, everyone. And I'd rather not. Once I'm married or something, I might go to Bangladesh. But that's what I intend to do. And I think my mum and dad are because they're quite superstitious as well. And I do believe a lot of things in that. I do have some supernatural beliefs. I do believe in a lot of those things, and like sorcery and witchcraft and things, because I have actually experienced a lot myself in that. And this isn't something that I'm going to mention in the interviews, but a few years ago I did. So that's why I have my reasons for believing it. And my mum and dad are quite. They're very strong believers. I mean, they're a bit more than me. Do you know what I mean? And they say, no, you're definitely not going to Bangladesh by yourself. Do you know what I mean? And things like that, because they are worried. And I'd rather not. And this is my home anyway.
Do you identify strongly with Bangladesh?
Sorry?
Do you identify strongly with Bangladesh?
I always class myself as a British Bangladeshi.
Right.
I'm a British Bangladeshi. A lot of people, there's a line I always used to use, was British by paper, Bengali by nature. Do you know what I mean? There'll be a lot of things that I'll do that'll just reflect the Bangladeshi side of me. Do you know what I mean? But then, like how I'm talking to you now, I suppose by my accent and my language and whatnot, you wouldn't think of me any different from if there was a British white lad sitting here, because I don't think he'd be speaking any different from me. I haven't got that, the Indian accent or anything like that. What you'd possibly, like Simpsons, Apu from Simpsons. Yeah. I haven't got an accent like that. Whereas a lot of people actually get shocked. Even in takeaways, when I was in takeaway, a lady said, in fact, actually, this is a good, nice little story for you. I was in was just shopping for my takeaway. One of my mates, Ryan, was sitting in the car whilst I'm doing the shopping, and an old lady came in and she said, "Do you know where this address is?" And whilst I was explaining where the address is, because she'd been walking around the block for ages and she was in her late 60s and it was quite cold. And when I was showing her the way, I was thinking, what if that was my grandma? And someone was just showing her the way and it was so far. I said, "Do you know what? If you don't mind, I'll take you there." She said, "Are you sure?" I said, yeah, that's fine. And I think she wasn't all clued up. Do you know what I mean? So I said, "You go sit in the car. My friend's sitting there. They'll keep you company whilst I do my shopping." And luckily, my friend was white as well. And so she was a bit more comfortable. And I don't blame her for that. You know what I mean? She's not all clued up. And I don't, her words I would never take offense to. Because whilst I was away, she said to my mate, "Oh, what nationality is he?" And things like that. But she was just curious. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Some people take it the wrong way. And I think that was just cute. And she was just saying things like, "Oh, don't run away with me. I've got a knife," and whatnot. And we took her to a destination. No one answered. So then we dropped her off home. And in that period, and I realised that there are a lot of people there who, I think we class it as ignorance, but it's not even ignorance. It's just, even the elderly people, like I say, the Bangladeshi elderly people, they're not all clued up, you know what I mean? And it's our responsibility as young ones to help them because they've helped us. You know what I mean? Like mobile phones, internet, thing like it wasn't their times. It's only right that we say to our parents, "Oh, you'll not understand," but we don't try and sit down and make them understand. And now my mum, who's very, very less educated, do you know what I mean? Now she knows how to use the iPad, a phone and everything. Do you know what I mean? Because we've supported her. I think that's one support that the Bangladeshi community does lack. And that's not, as a community, I think it's just individual as children. They don't, and it might, I say Bangladeshi, it might be in every community, you know what I mean? I don't know. Kids do tend to turn around. I have myself think that the parents don't understand anything. My mum always says, "I taught you how to speak," and you say, "When you were little and you couldn't speak, I could understand everything you could say, especially when I was going through that bad phase." She said, "But now you can speak fluently, yet I don't understand anything." Do you know what I mean? And I think that's I always keep that in mind because it is true. Your mother and your father, especially your mum, they understand every single thing you're trying to say when no one else. Because I've seen it, even my sister, when she's talking to my nephew, when my nephew was a lot smaller, you couldn't understand. We couldn't understand, but my mum could and my sister could. And I think it's just a special gift that it's only mothers who have, ladies, do you know what I mean? And they have that instinct, and I think that's why I find it very sad when people disrespect their parents, their mums and things, because these guys have done a lot for you. It's only right if we support them.
You've already said a bit about this, but could you say what you think the Bangladeshi community has contributed to Sunderland?
I think, the centre itself being here, Sunderland was known as a very, very, we don't have to scrape much up the surface to see this. There has been a lot of racism here. And especially in the 80s, 90s and whatnot, my dad and them have told me a lot of stories. And I think I got it very easy compared to them. And it's despite of all that, they've managed to have Bangladesh. Obviously, it's an international centre now, which I think is even better. But we had a Sunderland Bangladeshi centre in Hendon, where it was very, very, it was very, very conflict in Hendon as well. Managing to do something like that in itself is a massive contribution. And this centre is open for everybody to come and use. There are ladies who are using it for, fitness classes. There are people who are using, there's a WOW group, Women of the World. You know what I mean? There's so many things that's happening here. And I think that's a contribution. I think we could have done better. But that's why I've come here. I'm not one of those guys who sits at the back row and criticises saying it could have been better. I'm somebody who, if I think it could be better, I don't want to say it, I'd go and do it. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I've joined them now, because I think when it comes to the youth, this is where we lacked as a community. The reason being is we had representatives who were father figures trying to they didn't approach youth. Because the way I see it is when they refer to a 40-year-old as young, no disrespect. Yes, if you feel young, that's great. But even then, you've got teenage kids in school. So when you're going to go and try to liaise with these teenagers, you're going to be like a father figure, your mate's dad. They're not going to be open with you. But me being 24, these kids have seen me on the street. They were a lot younger, but they've seen me around, so they can be a lot more open with me. And I think that's the proposal I took forward, because I said to the chairman, you're planning to do something with the youth. How are you going to approach them? You're like a granddad figure. Like, no disrespect, but they're not going to really say, I'm having a problem with this lass. Been, smoking a few of these things and this, that, you know what I mean? They're not going to say that to you. They're not going to open up to you. And me, to be honest, I'll be able to, I'm not saying they couldn't, but because I've not long been in that life, I'll be able to kind of look at someone and kind of tell what he's getting up to. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that the elderly can't do that. Of course they can. They've got a lot more experience than me. However, but they at the same time haven't been in that life, or they've probably never been in that life. Maybe some have. You never know what secrets they're holding. But like I say, I've been around it not long ago, and I know exactly what's in now. Because drugs, different drugs hold them up. Like 80s, 90s, what was it? Ecstasy. You know what I mean? At the moment, it's methadone. And MDMA at the minute. Like, before it was the ecstasy pill itself, and now it's the powder form of MDMA. Ask how many elderlies know that. Do you know what I mean? But it's not their fault. Do you know what I mean? But seeing as though I know that, I think it's my responsibility to kind of address it. But I know exactly how to handle that situation because I've been in that kid's position myself. So I'll know exactly how to do it. I'm sounding a bit too confident here, but I am confident in myself. And the best thing about it is, all the kids know one thing. We've had a few youth workers, but even us, we used to take the mick out of them. They couldn't really do or say anything. But I think all the kids know I'm not somebody that they can take the mick out of. Because I'm one of those guys who'll give you if you give me a nice question, I'll give you a nice answer. You ask me a cheeky question, I'll give you a cheeky answer. Do you know what I mean? And I'll work like that with anybody. Doesn't matter how old, how young you are. Like, an example would be a girl once, where I was talking to a group of people in Newcastle. She was about 14 years old, 15 years old, cheeky little girl. And she just shouted, "Are you single?" Just out of the blue. And I just turned around, who said that? And she just started laughing, and everyone was laughing. I was like, why have you got an older sister for me? And everyone just started laughing. So that's kind of what I mean by cheeky answer. So if anybody gives me, and I think all the lads kind of are on attention on that, because they're my younger brother's mates as well. And having respect for my younger brother, they'll say like, right, it's his older brother. Plus, and they need to understand that I have fought a lot of battles with these guys to kind of get this position for them. And the sooner they realise that and show me a bit of respect, the better it is for them.
And you've already said a bit about this as well, but what are your hopes for the future?
Well, I've got a few things in mind. I'll just say it here. Like I said earlier on, I want to feed some of the homeless people, do something with charity, and with that I want to involve some older people. You know what I mean? Not the youngsters, oldest, everyone. Like I say, that's why I mentioned this. It was a community coordinator, because I want to work as a community, not just as a youth. I'm planning to do an MMA club, started here in the centre for now, because South Shield have done. The South Shield Fighting Fit has been over 10 years. They've made some world-class fighters now. Do you know what I mean? In South Shield, one of the guys, I've trained with them for ages as well. They gave me a lot of opportunities. Shaj Haq, he is one of the best fighters in the country at the minute. He was training in a community centre. Do you know what I mean? So it's you just need some mats, you just need a few pads, and you can get cracking on. And the thing is, a lot of, I think, people in the Bangladeshi community think if you teach them that, they're going to go out and fight. Whereas really, I know this because this calmed me down. This is, because a lot of people ask me, you were very, very aggressive. What calmed you down? It was MMA. It was that, because when you do a takedown on somebody, practice a drill, a takedown, as soon as you've got them on the floor, the first thing you do is reach your hand out to pick them back up. And I think that's the respect that when the kids learn, and it disciplines them, when you know how much kind of strength and power you have, you use it a lot less. Do you know what I mean? And it takes a lot of frustration out as well. And it's not, my main aim isn't just to make tons of fighters, but through that, because I'm going to be connected with them, I can see who's good at what field. Maybe some are going to be great fighters, but then there are going to be others who are going to be good doctors. Maybe someone's, different field. Maybe someone potentially can be a counsellor, in the future. So it's about having an environment where you can kind of keep an eye on them to see which one needs pushing which way. You can also find out who's slacking in their studies, in education, GCSEs and whatnot. You can push them towards that. We're thinking, we've got a lot of graduates. I've spoken to a few of them. They said, yeah, we're willing to do some evening classes, whoever needs help. Trying to do something like that as well. I've thought of something for the girls. As I mentioned, that YouTuber, Ramina Begum. I've managed to somehow get hold of a person, although she is quite very, very popular and not someone you can easily get hold of. I've found somebody, I've done a lot of digging, found someone who's mates with the stepdad, and I said, right, can you go and try and pitch it for me, please? Do you know what I mean? And see if I've got a lot of ideas. Because my sister, she does a lot of calligraphy. She does candle art and things, cupcake, and she's great. And there's so many out there like that. Do you know what I mean? Who are just hiding in their homes, not because they've been told to by their parents. Don't get me wrong. I mean, hiding like just playing on their phone and things and whatnot, and just just what teenagers do, really, and spend most of their time in their room. And I think if we get this talent out, if we say Rumina Begum coming down, a lot of these young girls are going to be very excited to show their talent now in front of someone who they look up to so much. We can get her down, we'll have a nice big show here. If this venue is too small, from the centre we'll get another bigger venue. That's not a problem. And we'll do a charity where, money raised, entry fees and whatnot that'll go towards charity. The kids who are there, showing their canvases, what they've designed and whatnot, you can buy that. Maybe they'll go to charity as well. So everything you make out of it will go to charity, but the costs for making all that will come from the centre. You know what I mean? So we're contributing towards it and making it bigger. So, and a chosen charity, or we could give it to 2 different charities and whatnot. And that's just another idea that's in my head that I'm going to execute after Ramadan. And there's just I've got tons and tons of, every single day I get a new idea or how to better one idea or whatnot. And it's just progressing on it, really, isn't it? Yeah. And I think that's what we were lacking in the centre so far. And now that I'm here, not just me, but my friends are here, because I believe it's not just me who's here now, it's the group of people who are creative. Yeah. And I'm trying to cope and get another girl in here who's called Nilima Begum. She's fantastic, and I'm going to talk to her and say, look, I want to get you in it, and I want you to do some work with me as well. That way she can get all the girls. Yav is great for the girls. I think I've had a few, not complaints, but I think the lads, and they're not very happy with Yav. Young Asian voices, but I think Ram tries very hard. I think the lads, he's just Ram's, maybe he needs to change his strategies a little bit. But the girls, I think they're doing fantastic, and we need to work all together. We know the lads MMA thing that I said. I'm going to ask the girls, well, why don't you guys try and raise some money for the equipment and things, And so will the rest of the community. And I'm not going to go to counsel anyone for funds for this. I said privately, I'm going to get the community people to raise the money. Kids, do a car wash. Raise some money, so you can own it yourself. No fund. Not because of any fund, because when you rely on funds, when the fund goes, that's it, you're gone. But when it's you and your community who are working together to keep it in place, it'll always work. You don't have to rely on anybody. But perhaps if we can go further with this MMA, where we are showing a lot of improvement, kids are going off the street, they're doing very well, then we can go to the council and say, look, we need a bigger place, we need a proper gym, and we need some funds. And that's when we can approach them. But it's like when I come up to you and if I say, well, mate, I need $5,000, I'm going to do a business. He's like, well, I'm not going to give you. But if I say, look, I've got this place in mind, I've done this so far, I've raised $2,500, would you be able to help me with 2.5? Then it sounds a lot better, doesn't it? It's like, oh, well, he's shown so much dedication, I've got loads of spare cash, why don't I help him out? But when I'm just going to go there and say, look, I want to do this and that, give me some money, it's like, no one will give you it like that. And I think that's what the past sports secretary didn't understand. And it wasn't his fault either, because me as a person, why didn't I go and explain it if I understand it so well? I think people criticise the management too much, whereas they don't show any interest themselves. Management can't do anything without the community. We need to realise that.